Culture, to me, is a group of people who share a commonality. No matter what area or wherever they're from, they share a commonality, a purpose that embodies tradition and a way of life. So that's what culture is to me.
I think for me, culture is like my roots, where I come from, the neighborhoods that I grew up in, the people I surrounded myself by, sort of just tied into how I maneuver throughout the world, and sort of like my thought processes in certain situations.
To me, are those shared ideals, those shared common points that you don't have to say out loud a lot of times, or when they are said out loud, they're celebrated.
How do they fit into the culture of neighborhoods? I think they have to actually observe first before you try to place yourself in a neighborhood and establish culture. You have to see the culture that's already there and incorporate it into into the art that exists within that community. So you have to be a reflection of what's in the community.
Yeah, oh yeah. Culture in neighborhoods is incredibly important. You can't go into a neighborhood and just start, like as a street photographer. It might take me weeks, it might take me months, it might take me years to get into a neighborhood, understand the culture, and then be able to sort of report it back properly. If you're not doing that work to understand the culture of a neighborhood and how that can change just by turning a corner, you're doing yourself and the people who you're telling the story to a disservice. And you're doing the greatest disservice to the people in that community.
By surrounding myself in the community and meeting new people and gaining friendships.
What happens in the hood really just stays in the hood for the most part. And the hood ain't really checking for what's happening in the art world. You know, not so much. The art world is very, very much interested in what's happening in the hood. You know, because it's a territory that could yield great content, great work, great stories.
Ballroom was created, or it originally started with transgender women. And basically they went to these events. It was started in New York City back in the 50s and the 60s. And it was it was a pageant and events where they can compete to win prizes and get stature, basically.
It's going to look different for whoever is speaking. Some people have more in-depth experiences. For me, it's a way for me to express myself, or if I felt as though like I needed a space where I wasn't going to be judged for being creative, I think that's a good outlet. Houses are sort of like teams or sort of like groups that people are a part of within the ballroom scene. So you have houses like Mugler, Mizrahi. Most of the houses are based off of like fashion icons. That's how it originally started. You have people in those houses and they join those houses through recruitment or just showing particular interests. And within those houses, you have a family, you have a support system, you have people who are family not by blood, but by bond. And I think that is really powerful. And those houses sort of like take their family or take their members and they go out and compete in ballroom competitions. So ballroom competitions, so you have different categories for a ball in general. And some of those things can look like runway, you have new figure, Vogue, realness. Depending on the category, you're gonna get a different sort of like response from an individual. For instance, like if someone is, it's a category called bizarre. Having the most bizarre costume, most bizarre creative costume that just makes people think and is so out of the box. And voguing in general is an art form. It's a form of dance. It's a form of expression. And of course, it's going to look different for whoever is performing. So
they would have separate categories. The women competed with the women, the men competed with the men. So in these categories, that's what they're called. Femme Queen Face, I'll give you an example of. And it's exactly what it is. Femme Queen Face, woman's face, meaning this individual has a striking, beautiful face. So what it consists of was perfect skin, great structure, smile, and teeth. So basically what the individuals would do would walk down a runway to a table of judges. Usually, back then it was about 5, 6, now it's like 15, 20 judges. They would walk down and it would literally be judged on their beauty and their representation of a female. And the scores range from 1 to 10. If you were chopped, they would say you were chopped, and that would be it.
not everyone becomes a part of the ballroom community. I think first, when you first come into the LGBTQ community, it's exciting. It's exciting to see something that is so open and everyone is so creative and everyone is so much themselves. So it's very intriguing at first, but the more and more people start to sort of figure out their own personal identity, sometimes ballroom isn't for them. And they figure that out by going to different events, maybe being in a house, and it may not actually be something that they want.
I don't think I would be doing what I'm doing right now if I hadn't been received in the Piven community, the Piven theater community.
There is a lack of support. It's like this loose sort of constellation of institutions and people, awards, and how it's not really tightly knit like it was in the 60s or 50s, where artists were more tightly wound together because of the way society was.
The only dance I can say that I would equate to community is voguing. Usually people equate voguing and ballroom because it does happen to this day. From the 50s on to present day, it still happens and it still will remain to, because voguing is evolved.
Being a street photographer makes you closer to your community or a community, wherever you go. If you're a street photographer that's very honest and open with meeting people, like I could go into any black community anywhere in this country, period. Drop me there, I can come out with pictures. You know, and I can come out with stories.
Ambler, PA, which is a neighboring community, I saw an area that had people of color that were not really being represented culturally or artistically. And I took it upon myself to have a Juneteenth celebration I felt like it was needed because I was in a community, or I'd been visiting a community, because it's one of the closer communities where you can go have, dinner and, and see a show, or you can, listen to, live music. But none of that really represented a pocket of people that had been there and that were established there for a very long time. And I just became curious as to why, and I started, exploring the neighborhood, and I was like, wow, this is really amazing that there's a community of African Americans, or different people of color living in this community. I want to reflect that. So I decided to have a Juneteenth jazz celebration.
Take my lips, I want to lose them. Take my arms, I'll never put it away your goodbye. Let me lie.
Photography is definitely, it's everything. It's an art form. It's an expressive art form. It is a unique and varied and multifaceted art form. There's so much you can do with image.
I think they all are. I think whether it be visual arts or music or acting, I think they're all forms of artistic expression that reflect who we are as people, as human beings. It reflects our humanity, for sure. I think it all encompasses artistic expression, for sure.
And it's like we have to own the ways in which we present ourselves from literally, you have to be equal in all things. If you feel it, be it. If you're being it, push it, present it, right? If you have that in all those spaces, everything you do suddenly becomes incredibly powerful. Like, it's a sense of belief. It's the faith that you have. Like, cashing in your faith in your actions is what we should really all be doing. Like, I believe in me.
How did you achieve your blackness? Was it through my mother's attractiveness? Why does it always come back to this? We are bound by our inadequacies. The shackles are in our minds. Our hearts are free. Believe me, to be what you choose, realize that we stop being slaves. We should never have been told. Then we would have nothing to draw from. It holds us hostage. Slavery.
A lot of work to be done to bring culture and artistic expression into different pockets of different communities, and insert ourselves in those communities, and when we're watching a lot of the evolution or gentrification of different neighborhoods, not allow ourselves to be taken out of that culture. We still have to maintain a presence, because we needed to maintain a presence so that we're seen and we're understood and we're appreciated.